That takes a lot
putting
of
a face on the mask.
Well, and
this
book itself, it has a language barrier. It was written in what was it, Portuguese or something?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
it wasn't in English. So like
it could be just a mistake of the.
Yeah, it could just be like a limitation on language. I mean, English is a weird language compared to other languages.
That was a lot of my issue with this book, was just like his terminology. It kind of threw me off because like I had a feeling what he meant by his words was completely different than how I took the word, like revolutionary leader. Like
you'll never know unless you go study Portuguese and start reading Petty G. Preston.
Right.
From Brazil.
Woo. Okay.
So then, how do we decide whether Go Green is oppressive or revolutionary?
Can it be a little bit of both?
Well, if it's a little bit of both, it can't truly be revolutionary.
Yeah,
because you can't have any of the qualities of oppressiveness to be revolutionary.
Well, see, that's why I was thinking different degrees.
See, yeah, that's a good point you brought up, because you know, within certain, like, okay, if we divide it into little groups, if we divide things into little groups, within each group there's an order of authority. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And mainly in family, it's like paternalistic.
Right.
So like, there's oppression everywhere. So I guess the different degrees of oppression depend on how big the group is and what exactly,
I guess,
how much dialogue there is between the two, right? Is there dialogue in a family?
Yeah.
I think there is to a certain extent once you're older. Like me and my mom talk, and we're like, Mom, I don't agree with this, and she's like, okay, well, why? And then we dialogue back and forth. But as a child,
but you know what? It goes back
structure.
to, because we view children as not intelligent enough to like understand
the complexities.
They
don't know anything.
So then, in essence, like those who oppress us view us as children, like mind-wise, right?
Well, yeah, they view us ignorant.
Ignorant, exactly.
And
so
they want to keep us ignorant.
And the what?
In the Green Initiative, I think that's the case.
They think we're ignorant of what the world's going
Well,
through.
So then,
because like you said, it's paternalistic oppression,
yes.
right? They're trying to do it for the best interest of us.
What they think.
Right.
So then, this isn't a revolutionary.
No.
Well, that was a dumb example I gave for a revolution.
I think you had good discussion though. I think.
Well, then what would be a true revolution? Like, is there such a thing as a true revolution, or again, is that like
has there ever existed? You know, has
or
there ever
is
been
that like
implemented?
some idealistic thing that we are trying to obtain?
Well, that's what I feel like from a critical standpoint. I feel like his ideas are very idealistic, and they have. I don't think they've successfully been implemented because they don't meet his outline of what a revolutionary leader should.
There's always going to be oppressors in the world because that's how our society. I'd say most societies are based upon some form of oppression.
I think it takes a lot of work and a lot of sacrifices to actually become.
I don't think it's possible.
Well, no one wants to make those kind of sacrifices. No one wants to risk their comfort and their safety.
No, I
don't think anyone does. Who would want?
I just don't think it's possible to get two people from two different backgrounds to come together and to agree on everything.
Well, that's why you have individualism, so you don't have to be a zombie.
I know, but isn't that kind of what?
It's
about
having a common interest to change, but
not having humanity.
Yeah, but you can have a common interest to change something, but I feel like
it's not about making.
I think that's why he says it has to be directed.
Because then that's oppression. You can't make everybody the same because then that's what the oppressors are doing because they want you to be the same and they also want you to be different in that same.
But then how do you come together and transform the world if you don't have? Is it just like you have a common idea?
That's why he mentions you take it one task at a time. You direct it towards something. Mm-hmm. You can't just say let's just change the world. And
it takes a lot of time.
You pick a task and you start with that. And I think that's where he's going with that.
I think the way that he wrote it, I think that he promotes individualism. He definitely does that. He doesn't want people to be thoughtless. Matter of fact, on the contrary, he wants them to have lots of thought. He wants them to think and he wants them to act.
But
right.
But he
dang it.
He doesn't. Okay, well, you were saying that he says he emphasizes individualism, but he also in the book, I think it was in the last chapter, he says that individualism works against. What did he say? Individualism works against.
That's weird because it takes one individual to stand up and start stuff.
Well, I think.
But then he brings in group dynamics, but he says that you can't do it alone. but this leader has to bring this group together. So technically,
We're using,
you started it wrong.
it's a language thing. We're using the same word to describe two different situations. Like individualism, like in the context of having ideas, having your own ideas, he promotes that.
So he promotes individual thought.
Right, but not individualism to where like I feel like I can act on my own to
Or
do this
also
revolution.
Individualism.
It requires the whole masses. It requires all the people in order to have a revolution.
But it takes one though to start everything.
Well,
Yeah, but it takes many to finish it.
You can't
Yeah.
finish it on your own.
Well, that's why he brings that's why he brings up a leader or a facilitator.
Fire has to start from the spark.
So it takes one person to gather these people.
Which is
who
the
have-
revolutionary leader, right?
Yes, who have these common,
Interests, but not necessarily
I
the
don't-
exact same mindset.
they have
So is
a common perception of reality and what is actually wrong.
So does
You
the
know, I think,
revolutionary leader see both sides of where the oppressor's coming from and where the oppressor
They
coming
have
from?
to. I think it mentions in the chapter that they have to incorporate. They have to gain communion between the oppressor and the oppressed. I think it's on page.
Yeah, I mean they have to anticipate their ideas and whatever the oppressors are gonna.
Yeah, because they're working
like a
against
third
the oppressors.
party. Like a third party. Like that's how I kind of like.
Well,
I
they're
can
not.
just
They're
see them
part
like
of
we
the.
mentioned
They're
before as
part of the
mediators.
revolution. They're not separate from it. That's what he tries to push. That leader isn't by itself. The leader is a part of the group, but just helps kind of like keep it morphed into a shape.
Mhm.
So is he strictly just working for the oppressors to overcome oppression, or is he working with the oppressed to maybe like change their ideas or make them critically think about their situation? Can it go for both?
Sounds like a double agent type thing.
I
I know,
think
but like, could he also work with the oppressors and maybe?
Well,
make
I don't think he could because the oppressors are working so hard to keep the oppressed
Oppressors don't want to
oppressed.
have a dialogue.
So they don't even want to
Oppressors
go
don't
near
want to
that.
talk. They want to keep things status
So
quo.
what this facilitator is actually doing is working against the oppressors and working with the oppressed.
But see, you can't do that. You can't have a true revolution without the oppressors also changing their mindset as well.
Well,
Maybe
I
through
think-
the process.
I
But
think
do you
if
know
we
what
was-
I mean? Like you can't.
They're still gonna want it.
Because then they become the
You
oppressed.
could have a group of the oppressors all come together with a common idea, and they're all like, okay, start working on action, but nothing's going to get done unless the oppressors change their mindset and actually help along with this change. Does that make sense?
Well, you've got to.
Like if the oppressors don't stop oppressing, nothing's going to get done.
That's where the revolution.
That's where the
does
revolution
stop
comes in and the
oppression.
action of the oppressed.
They
Yeah, but is
take
that really going to be
counteraction.
enough?
Well,
That's
obviously.
why they say
Overcome.
that's why they
That's
say
why-
that one person can't do it, that a group.
I know, but that's why I think the oppressors
Minority
I think the
community.
revolutionary leader also needs to work with the oppressor to maybe
Well, because
allow
Well,
him
that's
to
going to
critically
allow.
think.
That's going to allow limitations on what the revolution is going to be, because they're going to be like, well, you can do this yet. This
No, I'm
happens,
not. I'm not
stipulations.
saying that. But you know how the revolutionary
That
leader
she's
was a
saying-
mediator for the oppressed.
No, he's not. He's a mediator just for the oppressed, not between the two groups.
No.
But why?
Because the
why?
oppressors.
But then nothing's
they're
going
only
to
here.
get done.
Well, if you have a big enough group and as a minority, if you got to come over, this is not going to hold strong.
Yeah,
gonna
but it's still
deteriorate.
going to be a form of oppression unless they both work together.
Unless they are both
That's what I'm saying.
involved in
Like,
dialogue.
They get educated through the process, obviously.
I know.
That's the ideal.
And I'm
That's
saying the revolutionary leader could be
the
the
mediator.
mediator
between
for
them.
the oppressors,
To the oppressed.
to the oppressed.
But the thing is, this is why we see it so that
Well, then
it's
you
such
would,
an ideal
you would
concept.
mistrust the leader because you would think maybe he's an agent for the.
This is I think this is where we start like
Oh, yeah, it's
Noticing-
driving me nuts.
no, I think this is where we start noticing that maybe this wouldn't even the ideal process wouldn't work
the
because
purpose
of
is to
the
educate everybody.
Yeah, and you have to educate the oppressors to realize not even
I don't
necessarily
even know
make
that's
them
oppressed.
realize what they're doing wrong, but like make them critically think about what they're doing. And I feel like
I'm not sure.
do you get what I'm saying?
I get what
though?
you're saying.
Like
I don't
She's
know if it's
basically
addressed
saying,
that
like-
they say they talk about this book talks about how to educate the oppressed. But I don't really know if it talks about how to educate the oppressors and
maybe that's a good point that
completing
should
the
be
whole- yeah, if that's even possible.
if it's possible.
well, I think it should be.
That's
I
an
understand this
interesting
is teaching like for the oppressed people, but I also think the oppressors play a huge